right. Thanks everyone for being here. Amy and Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. And before we start talking about Agentic AI, I want to ask a little bit first about what gaps you saw when you were getting into your own businesses. And Amy, let's start with you. What gap did you see when starting Madison Reed? And did you have AI in mind at the time you were starting it?
So for those of you that don't know what Madison Reed is, the women in the audience do. There you go. We are a hair color company, and we have the lowest chemical profile in hair color. We make our own hair color, and we're an omni-channel business, meaning we sell on other people's shelves, we have an e-commerce business, and we have 100 of our own stores throughout the US where we actually color your hair with the same product. So the gaps that I saw, so number one, yes, AI. And the reason was, well, it used to be, who's old enough here to know machine learning, right? And so it used to be machine learning, and what we did was, our job was to match you without seeing you in terms of your hair color. So we used machine learning for 18 questions, and we'd get the answer and then predict your color. Company has always had a 70 NPS, so it was pretty good, high retention. So what I saw was horribly toxic hair color, expensive salons, and 85 million women in the US color their hair every 6 weeks or less. So I thought that was a big total addressable market.
Awesome. And Mark, you're an author, you're an advisor, you're an investor, you're a global thought leader in the field of AI. I can imagine that 10 or 20 years ago, the position or description of being a global thought leader in the field of AI might not have existed. So how do you get into that line of work?
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say thank you for all the founders that came here today. You are the engine of America's economy. You are the engine. This is what keeps us going.
Awesome.
And this is really what got me a start. I said, but is it enough to be a founder, a strategist, a policymaker, an investor? And I felt early on that this field, technology, later on AI, became so complicated. So many different things are going on at the same time that you need to be connected with all of them. So today I'm proud to be connected to sovereign funds, Silicon Valley, and government policy and corporate boardrooms to help you guys, entrepreneurs, to succeed and get to the next level.
Awesome, thank you. So, Amy, I'm hoping you can talk to us a little bit about some of the technology that powers Madison Reed. My guess is that, you know, as an omni-channel business, you've got technology baked in a pretty firm way, but I also understand that you have some pretty advanced agentic capabilities, so I'd love to hear you talk to us about that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the color prediction was always predicated off of AI. I think today we have 22 million hair profiles, so it's gotten really, really smart. But there are two other big things we've done. One is we have an agent called Maddie, and about 80% of all of our customer interactions are handled by that agent. And if anything, our service has gotten better. So, you know, the first thing you want to do is you don't want to put an agent in place and then have your customers hate it. Our customers love it. Product discovery, making appointments at our hair color bars, and then managing their subscriptions. It's been sort of a game changer, so that's one. But the second one, which wasn't most obvious, is we've put in place the ability on our stores. We'll do about 1.4 million services of coloring people's hair this year. We can match labor, so how many people working in a store with how many people are predicted to come in 2 weeks in advance. And if any of you know four walls, the hardest part of four walls is being able to control your labor cost, not just for cost, but you want people, cosmetologists, to be busy because they hate their jobs. I think we talked about this. If they're not busy and you want them to make a lot of money, that's been a game changer for us. And then there's 5 or 6 other big projects we're working on internally, but it's been a game changer in our business.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about Maddie, and I've actually tried chatting with Maddie a little bit as well. So
your hair looks good.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not dyeing it yet, but I'll get there pretty soon.
Your hair looks good. Yeah.
I'm not hiding it.
Okay.
A little bit shy.
Mark, speaking of you and your hair, I'm hoping you can. So we're using. There's a lot of terms here like agentic AI, and then there's also just a broad idea of automation. And there's some subtleties there that I'm hoping you can help us all understand.
So very good question. As Emmy pointed out, in Emmy's business, it's all about customer facing, much more than coming from the top tier. And I think when you look at automation in general, automation has been around for a long time, but think of automation as simple for an audience here. You go to a vendor machine and you start pressing B1, B2, B3, I want this pretzel, I want those types of chips. Or you hire an intern, and then you talk to an intern and you say, do this, and then do the other task. But Agentic AI changed the story. Agentic AI is finally getting us a teammate, a real teammate. And that teammate is focusing on decision-making process. It's actually helping us to improve the workflow. It's helping us with reasoning, human-level reasoning, in fact. And it's almost like an executive assistant or a teammate. I will get it done in whatever way. All you have to focus is on outcomes. So for the audience here in the room, it's not just technology and it's not automation, it's actually outcomes. And outcomes today, in today's world of 2026, matter more than anything else. It's not necessarily theory, and it's not nice slides anymore. Well, anybody in the consulting industry, you know that. The slides really don't matter anymore, right? Outcomes matter more.
All right. Amy, I want to better understand Maddie a little bit. And I'm wondering how customers have reacted to it. And you gave us a little bit of a hint about that already. But sometimes if I reach out to a company, maybe it's a big airline or something like that, and they're like, instead of talking to a real person, you can talk to our AI chatbot. Sometimes I'm not exactly thrilled by that. Sometimes it's totally fine. So how have customers reacted to that?
Yeah, I would say in general, as long as customers easily get their questions answered, it's about, our customer's a busy woman. She's got kids, she's a professional, her phone is where her life resides. And so she really doesn't want to talk to somebody. I have to tell you that for the most part, she wants the convenience. We have always kept a staff of stylists that are technicians that actually do want to, if you really want to talk to somebody, you can. Because I don't believe, in my opinion, in a technical business like ours, we'll get to a place where you'll never talk to anybody. But I think it's for the medium tier and lower value issues that people want convenience.
And what makes it agentic? How is it taking action on the user's behalf?
Yes, so makes an appointment at our stores.
That's awesome.
Changes your date that you're going to get a box. Orders you a box by having, instead of 18 questions, now 4 questions in the quiz, or taking a photo or virtual try-on. It analyzes your hair color and then says, here's the one you should buy. Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And Mark, what are some of the risks here if a company is rolling out a chatbot or agentic AI to customers to help get things done? What are some areas that you maybe see companies or organizations doing this wrong?
Yeah, first of all, I want to clarify right now, so we would not make mistakes. That's the reason you're coming here. We want to have less mistakes, less errors. Don't create another chatbot. The world doesn't need another chatbot. Exactly what Emmy said. They're not that smart, the chatbots. You want a human-level intelligence. Human-level intelligence that actually builds expertise, that works with data, that has some level of emotional IQ as well. So when you're building the next generation system, and this is the difference with the plain vanilla chatbots and agentic, that they're smarter, they're working in a similar way that we are working as humans. Now, scary thing, but potentially at some point it may overtake human intelligence. Sam Altman says, at some point when you come to OpenAI, you will come because you want to acquire intelligence. That's scary, and we're going to talk about this. But the mistakes that people make, if you don't have good data in your company, it doesn't matter what you're building with agentic AI. Make sure that you have stable data, that your data is not fragmented. Make sure that you have a governance model. Make sure that you focus on compliance and regulations, and make sure that you have talent that you could rely upon. All of those things are pre-requirement. If you don't have that, you're going to make tremendous mistakes, and you may not be able to recover.
I think one other thing, absolutely. I think one other thing we found in the beginning, you have to have data, and you have to have it organized and labeled in ways that the information can be connected to each other. Sometimes the agents are giving an answer that isn't really the answer. Well, let me tell you something. When you're dealing with a guest, you have one shot. And if they don't believe that they're going to get an answer, they're gone. And so I think this labeling or organizing of information will become much more important.
And I agree. I think what Emmy is saying is data has to be, the reason this is so critical, if you look at the acquisition that Meta has made, and it acquired Scale AI, and with this they have the next chief AI officer, Alex. And the reason they've done this, because data is crucial. Like you're investing in infrastructure data centers, if you cannot put value on data, you cannot label the data properly, you're dead in the water. So I fully agree with you.
All right, so data functions as an important moat and a lot of other important aspects. Amy, can you talk to us a little bit about how you're using AI internally at Madison Reed? Because it's not just a customer-facing tool.
Yeah, no. So this is what I'm going to say now is the biggest hotbed that that every entrepreneur is facing, which is the ability to unleash people's creativity and deal with their fear. And I think as leaders, the fear is real. And so it's really important to educate. And what I mean by that is you should not be, in my opinion, giving people 100 tool sets saying, good luck. Let's see how that goes, and I'm going to slash the shit out of my workforce, right? That is exactly what not to do. Yes. Versus what we've done is we have educated our teams, because what we find is in the education, people unleash the tool sets themselves and then become believers and then become more productive, and they become actually your evangelists within the company because it's done something that gives them a higher value job. And we were talking about this before. It is our job as entrepreneurs and leaders to take that position. In my opinion, it is not our job to decide that AI is only good for cost savings. What I want people who come to work at Madison Reed is to have a growth of their professional, personal, and financial life. And in order for them to grow professionally and personally, these skill bases are the future, and I want them to have higher value jobs. And those higher value jobs are actually about thinking, about learning, about being more creative, not doing bullshit, excuse my language, administrative tasks that make you feel like your brain's dead. And we've been starting to be able to do that. The fear doesn't go away. The media, there's a lot that's out there right now about how we should all be scared. I got a kid, the Madison Reed, the company's named after my daughter, who's graduating college. She's a little petrified. But at the same time, I'll just say this. Love is the most powerful human emotion. And the last time I checked, AI doesn't love. And so we just need to be human. It's all going to be fine, folks.
And Mark, what's your advice for that?
Very, very powerful. I agree with Amy. We should not look at AI from a doom scenario. We have to look at AI in a very positive way. We don't want to be the next Jack Dorsey. I really didn't like what he did. With 4,500 people cut on Twitter, there are a lot more things that the human beings should be able to do, as Emmy basically said. But because of this, you have to really start thinking about your reskilling, your upskilling, your potential. Human beings have a lot of potential. We have 90 billion neurons. We're only using a fraction of this. We're only using 15 to 17%. We're able to do a lot of things. AI is going to open up opportunities in the space industry, cyber industry. We're now in this agentic AI space. $61 billion in AI and agentic AI space. That's 61 cents per dollar is going in right now, more than any other industry, because we want to be frontier. We want to open this new potential. And imagine we're now in this only digital AI space. In the future, in Emmy's businesses and other businesses, we're going to work with physical AI, unleashing $25 to $30 trillion potential in the United States. So I think we got to look on how we upskill, reskill, provide better education. And it's not something businesses could do alone. We got to make sure that chambers of commerce, local, city, and federal government works with us. There are great examples of this. I traveled the last year to Estonia. I met Prime Minister of Estonia, sat down for 2 days. Small country, and they have 2 million people, less than that. But they are very much bullish that every single person in that country, young or old, they matter. AI is the one which is going to provide the catalyst for them to succeed. And by the way, right now, I wrote this interesting article, and exactly what Emmy said, with entrepreneurs will benefit a lot more. A couple of entrepreneurs could start massive unicorn businesses with agentic AI, and they don't need to necessarily invest heavily or hire a massive amount of people. But imagine we have now a new army of entrepreneurs in the United States. We're going to be unbeatable and resilient for the future.
All right, I like the optimism. And I'm wondering about, Amy, let's start with you, what advice you might have for founders who are thinking of starting a company that's powered by Agentic AI, or maybe using Agentic AI to scale or pivot in an existing company they might have? Because I'm going to imagine that it's not easy.
No, it's not. I think if you are starting a business today, you're obviously, the first handful of hires are going to be AI first hires, right? Like from an engineering standpoint, you know, people that are AI native are exactly where you should be investing in. I think for companies like myself, you know, who've been at this for 12 years, you know, our biggest task is to take our dev and engineering team, our digital product teams, and let them become AI native, right? You will see some people that will resist that. But what I can tell you is that is a recipe for not being able to get a job somewhere. So the reality of this is, you know, leaner, you know, much leaner teams, faster iteration, understanding. I think one of the hidden pieces of this, and why our agentic agent Maddie has been so good, has become, we were systems thinking. We actually picked the use cases that we thought would add the most value to our customers to test whether this agent worked, and it has, which then unleashed the ability for more use cases. So the other thing that I'd say is stay in a lane where the highest value is going to get created. And you know, I'll pick up on one thing that I was a VC before I started Madison Reed. In the entrepreneurial world, there's a statement which for people that are in my kind of business, called HALO. Heavy assets, low obsolescence, right? The giant sound of AI funding has been, for the last 24 months, sucking all of the dollars out of places that are HALO businesses. But let me tell you something, and maybe I do not think that most of the women here want a robot to color their hair. So I'll take my chances about hair color, physical product, emotion, creating confidence. You know, that stuff isn't going to go away. The relationship, how your hair makes you feel, that's not going to go away. However, what is going to go away are all the things that we do as a highly inefficient business. That's the truth.
All right, yeah.
Just to comment what Emmy said, I agree. But I think if we are, right now, we're in a confrontational world. I wish we were not. We're in a confrontational world versus China. It's either us or China. And China is much further ahead on industrial AI and physical AI. And we got to make sure. I think that when you get to the consumer businesses, but in industrial logistics area, here in Texas, logistics, industrials, defense, we have to put more humanoid robotics. Obviously, humans in the loop, always humans in the loop, but this is going to give us massive competitive advantage. We want them working 24/7 for us and create much better margins, much better compression, and I think right now we are in an exponential economy. For example, I will tell you where we are today, we're not going to be there even next week. So many changes. The number that I'm going to give you right now when you leave this, from 11% adoption a few months ago, Agentic AI now is at 40%. It's in a 4 to 6 months difference. We're moving so quickly to 40% adoption. So if you're not getting involved in Agentic AI, you're going to be taking yourself out of the competitive position. Don't do this. Leverage as much as you can, but leveraging not only by listening to us, but not only by watching YouTube videos by some of the superstars, but also by doing. Go back home and start building those agents and make sure they work for you.
Amy, you look like you wanted to get a word
No,
in
and
there a moment ago.
you
Yeah.
need to have those evangelists within your company. You need to have people in your company that authentically believe in this, not because you're telling them, but they're seeing that. That will change hearts and minds, right? Fear is a creativity killer, folks. When you are in companies of our size, thousands of people, it only takes a handful of people to feel like you're going to slash the crap out of their jobs and things come to a screeching halt. You must approach this as leadership with optimism and opportunities for people, not with defensive, and talk about it. That's what I see in some of the leaders that are my friends that are founders. They're like, I don't want to bring this subject up. Your people are smart. You need to talk about it. And when you do that, it actually demystifies it all.
And then how...
I just want to comment also, sorry, Emmy is saying the right, AI first, AI leadership. That starts with the chief executive officer like Emmy and others who have taken a lead in the United States and said our company will be AI first or AI native company. I used to believe, coming from the technology world, that you need AI officer. You may still need this, but if you don't have a buy-in and you don't have leadership and strategic vision at the board level, at executive level, where you're a founder, you're leading the company based on where AI is taking us, obviously with your values, with your customers. That is so crucial. Much more important than saying, oh, I just hired another chief AI officer.
We have labs that we run multiple times a week. They have been the most successful thing in the company, which have been people are getting together and they're sharing ideas, and then all of a sudden people are thumbs up, right? Slack channels, like people are going nuts, and it's basically demystifying what's going on. Your team members need to put this back in their hands. If you think you're going to control this, that's not going to happen. And so it's, and that you said something about data security. That is a very important factor in these businesses that people better get more in tune with. How long are you keeping your data? What are the data sets? What do they look like? What are people using? This is stuff that you should dig into right now.
And what do you do? I imagine this is a question you don't love, but what do you do when people ask you about AI and job loss? And they say, well...
You're the second person that's asked me on a panel today. Why? Do I have a magnet that's on me? No.
What's going on here?
Yeah,
No
exactly. Here's how I'm going to answer. I am, as you could tell, pretty straightforward kind of gal. I would be lying to anybody in this audience to say that AI will not disrupt some jobs. That would be not the truth. And I think leaders need to know the truth. The question becomes, can people be retrained? The question becomes, can we have the first wave of a digital divide that's going to look like nothing compared to a year from now, right? So we need to be responsible to retrain people into higher use kinds of jobs. I'm not looking at AI at Madison Reed because I can slash half of the workforce. I'm looking at it because I think we'll be a more profitable company that will grow faster, and I can reinvest those dollars into a more profitable company that'll grow faster.
I agree with Amy. I think it's not just about operational efficiencies and headcount reduction. It's much more than that. We got to position AI for sustainability, for our sustainable planet. Our planet is dying. Water, energy. We need to position AI to be as a savior of this planet, and every entrepreneur could contribute with solutions. Imagine solutions that we could do for climate. Imagine solutions that we could do for energy. So we got to get away from this practice of operational efficiencies and reduction only. AI is going to allow us growth, tremendous growth, but also to make sure our products and our companies are more resilient than ever, and that becomes a moat. But you can't do it only with big ideas and emotions. You have to do it with planning, strategic planning, hiring the right resources, leadership, and governance. Governance matters.
And, One thing we've heard about with Agentic AI is the power that a solopreneur or a very small team could use AI agents to scale up rapidly and have basically many AI coworkers. And we've seen that, Claude is especially well known for doing that well in AI. And so we hear talk of the first unicorn from a solopreneur. Do you think that that kind of world is possible where a very small company, maybe just one or two people, uses a series of AI agents to help scale and then it can achieve some sort of huge valuation? Amy, Mark.
Yeah. Go ahead,
so,
Mark.
So I think it is possible. I'm a big proponent that you as an entrepreneur, you have a plan, you have a vision, you have the incentive, you have the energy, but you may not have the capital. You may not be able to approach us as VCs, or for whatever the reason is, you're going to rely upon agents to be able to do this work. And we already seen it in public markets. We've seen what Claude made certain announcements on modernizing legacy systems. You've seen the hit that it took on one of the biggest companies, IBM. You've seen what it does on the legal profession, on finance profession. So if you set up a strategy with specific AI agents, you should be able to succeed properly and carry this business. But it's not replacing, it's giving you another ability, another option to carry your business forward. And by the way, if you do things properly with all those AI teammates, you could probably succeed to become a next unicorn.
I'd say the other thing, having, as being a VC and a 4-time entrepreneur, I also want people to listen to this one, which is you're going to own more of your company, and somebody else is going to own a lot of your company. And at the end of the day, if you're somebody like me who's been doing this a long time, it sucks when other people own a lot of your company and you're the one doing the fucking work, right? And so at the end of the day, I think the other way to think about this is you're going to hold on to more of your company because it's going to take less money that you have to raise, and you will be more efficient about the capital allocation of those dollars. That is a good thing, not a bad thing.
And I want to just say one thing. Before this crisis happened in the Gulf, I visited one of the large sovereign funds, 900 billion sovereign fund. And there were a lot of people that were optimistic, pessimistic about AI and agentic AI. And then suddenly, I was introduced to a 22-year-old woman in the Middle East area, and she developed an agentic system that is able to do, and they developed this in relatively 4 weeks. They're able to do things in 2 or 3 hours, this specific system, what large corporations, it takes them 4 to 6 months. So founders and entrepreneurs could win in a big way because you don't carry legacy.
Amy, I'm wondering what lessons you've learned along the way, specifically at Madison Reed with AI, that if you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self, what you might tell yourself.
I like my younger self. I like that part. We've made so many mistakes, which is part of what happens part of what happens in life. And companies are like lives, right? I think, believe it or not, I think we were 6 months later than I hoped we would be. It took a lot of me jumping up and down and kind of flipping out and throwing temper tantrums to say, we're going to get lapped in this. The world is going to pass us by. So I think some of the mistakes were people's resistance. I think the second part of the mistakes were any of you that have companies have massive amounts of data. Massive. You just don't look at that data like an asset. You look at that data like, oh, we have data. It's not for reporting reasons. It's for now being able to do something with it that actually drives the productivity of your business. And that's a very different flip. So I think I would have pushed on that faster.
Mm-hmm. And I would say to that point, I want to repeat the words of Jensen Huang. Jensen had this session with Stanford. Many of you watched it several times. I encourage everybody to watch it. Life is not easy, and running a business is the hardest thing, starting a business. It's not working as an employee. What I suggest and what I should have done as a younger self, we need to suffer more. When we suffer and we face problems heads on, and we will fail many, many times, but it will make us more resilient and more stronger. But if we think we know the answers and we come from top schools, top MBAs, and we watch all the videos and we meet the right people, no, it's not it. It's trying and failing and suffering and becoming resilient. And that's what everybody needs to go, and then you'll be an amazing entrepreneur, an amazing founder. You'll be successful, and you'll build the next NVIDIA. I'm sure of that.
And Amy, we have about 20 seconds
Yeah.
left, so I'm going to give you the last word. Does that idea of trying and failing
Yeah.
and the misery, does that resonate?
Yeah, I talk about this at work all the time. Suffering is human beings' inability to accept what is. So if you want to suffer and stay there, you will not progress in life. Life is about falling on your ass, picking yourself up, learning, and then the ability to do this one thing that changed my life. Instead of being blaming, shaming, being curious. Be curious in your life. If you can be curious in your life, it's the key to happiness.
All right. Mark and Amy, thank you so much. We got to wrap up.
Just one more thing to say. Don't be afraid of AI. I think one of the things that AI still doesn't have is this empathy, communication, creativity.
Love.
We have what it takes as human beings. Carbon species will always be ahead of machine. And we in this room, because of being founders, entrepreneurs, resiliency will matter. And thank you so much for listening to us.
Yes, thank
you
you
all.
guys.